A mammoth could feed your family for months. It could also kill you with a single swing of its trunk. But they hunted them anyway. With a stone weapon so sophisticated, it changed everything. Then, 10,000 years ago, the giants vanished. But the people, they didn't just survive, they thrived. They built civilizations, created art, developed democracies for thousands of years. Until one day, a ship appeared on the horizon, and nothing would ever be the same. This is Episode 2, Season 1, The Mammoth Hunters. Stay with me to the end. And if you're enjoying this journey through Canadian history, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's begin. Around 13,000 years ago, that's 11,000 BCE, something remarkable happens across North America. From Alaska to Mexico, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, the same distinctive tool starts appearing everywhere. The Clovis point, named after the town in New Mexico, where it was first discovered in 1929. But these things are everywhere. Thousands have been found, and they're all remarkably similar. Now, finding the same tool across an entire continent tells us something important. It means people were sharing knowledge, trading, moving, communicating across vast distances. This wasn't a bunch of isolated groups stumbling around. This was a culture, the Clovis culture. So what makes these so special? First, the shape. Leaf-shaped, anywhere from 3 to 20 centimeters long. Both edges sharpened to a razor's edge, the tip designed to penetrate deep. But the key feature, the thing that makes it instantly recognizable as Clovis, is the flute. See that groove running up from the base? That's called a flute, and creating it is incredibly difficult. You have to strike the stone at exactly the right angle, with exactly the right force, to remove a long channel flake without shattering the whole point. Modern flint knappers, people who study and recreate ancient stone tools, say that even with years of practice, they fail more often than they succeed. One wrong strike, and hours of work shatters in your hands. So why go to all this trouble? Why not just make a simple pointed stone? Because the flute serves a purpose. It creates a channel that lets the point sit deeper into the wooden shaft. You can wedge it in there, bind it tight with sinew, and it won't come loose, even when you're driving it into thick mammoth hide with tremendous force. And they didn't throw these by hand. They used a tool called an atlatl, a spear thrower. It's basically an extension of your arm. You hook the back of the spear into the atlatl, use your whole body to generate force, and when you release, that spear is traveling twice as fast as a hand-thrown spear with 3 times the impact force. Enough to penetrate the thick hide, fat layer and muscle of an Ice Age giant. And we're not talking thin skin here. Mammoth hide could be 3 centimeters thick. Beneath that, a fat layer 5 to 8 centimeters deep for insulation. Then heavy muscle. You need a serious weapon to get through all that. And the Clovis point was exactly that weapon. But these people weren't just hunters. They were sophisticated survivors with deep knowledge passed down through generations. They knew which stone types made the best tools. Flint, chert, obsidian, they could recognize good toolstone from hundreds of meters away, see the quality and how it fractured. They knew how to process animal hides into supple leather, waterproof and warm, how to extract sinew for binding and thread, how to render fat for fuel and food storage. They knew the seasonal movements of herds, where caribou would cross rivers in spring, where bison gathered in fall, where to find fresh water, shelter, firewood, and they knew how to hunt the largest animals that had ever walked the earth. Picture this. Southern Alberta, 12,500 years ago. A hunting party has been tracking a mammoth herd for 3 days. They spot a young male, limping, separated from the herd. This is the moment they've been waiting for. Hunting a mammoth isn't like hunting a deer. Even a young one weighs 2 metric tons and can kill you with one swing of its trunk. The hunters spread out. Hand signals communicate the plan. 3 circle left, 3 circle right. The rest stay downwind. It takes hours to get into position. Moving stone still when the mammoth looks up. creeping forward when it feeds. Finally, they're ready, about 40 meters away. Now, 3 spears hit simultaneously. The mammoth bellows, spins, blood flowing from the wounds. Another volley from the other side. The mammoth tries to run, but the wounds are deep. The hunters follow at a distance, watching, waiting for blood loss to do its work. This takes hours. Finally, as the sun drops toward the horizon, the mammoth falls. The lead hunter places a hand on the massive skull and speaks words of thanks, of respect, acknowledging that a life has been taken so others may live. This wasn't sport. This was survival. Now, the real work begins. The hide becomes shelters and clothing. The meat is eaten fresh or dried for winter. The fat becomes fuel and waterproofing. The bones become tools and tent poles. The tusks become prestige items passed down through generations. Nothing wasted. This mammoth might mean the difference between surviving winter or not. That night, around the fire, stories are told. The hunt is recounted. Children listen, learning the knowledge they'll need when they're the hunters. This is how cultures survive. Knowledge passed down, generation after generation. We know this happened because we've found the evidence. Kill sites across North America with mammoth bones showing unmistakable butcher marks. Clovis points still embedded in bone. The hunts happened. Again and again. For hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And slowly, humans spread across the continent, following herds, finding good hunting grounds. But something else was happening too. Something that would change everything. The giants were disappearing. By about 10,000 years ago, 8,000 BCE, something remarkable had happened. Something unprecedented in millions of years of evolutionary history. The mammoths, gone. The mastodons, gone. The giant ground sloths, the size of elephants, gone. In less than 3,000 years, a geological eye blink, over 70% of North America's large mammal species went extinct. 34 genera completely wiped out. To put that in perspective, Africa today, the last place on Earth that still has its Ice Age megafauna, has lions, elephants, rhinos, hippos, giraffes. North America had just as much diversity, and then it was gone. So what happened? Theory 1. Climate change. The Ice Age was ending, temperatures rising, the glaciers melting, sea levels climbing, and the landscape was transforming. Those endless mammoth steppes, the grasslands that had covered the continent for thousands of years, they were disappearing. In their place, forests grew, tundra expanded, wetlands formed where glaciers had been. If you're a mammoth evolved to eat grass, and the grass is being replaced by trees, you're in trouble. Less food means smaller populations. Smaller populations mean less genetic diversity. Less genetic diversity means more vulnerability to disease, to predation, to random catastrophes. The environment was changing faster than evolution could adapt, and species that couldn't adjust died out. But then there's theory 2, humans. Here's a disturbing correlation. These extinctions started right when humans arrived. In North America, in South America, later in Australia, every time humans show up in a new place, extinctions of large animals follow within a few centuries. Coincidence? Maybe not. Because these animals had never seen humans before. They didn't know to be afraid. When you've been the apex predator for millions of years, you don't evolve a fear response to some weird, upright ape throwing sticks, and humans were really good at killing. We don't need to hunt mammoths every day, even hunting them every few months, over centuries. Eventually, you run out of mammoths. Do the math. A mammoth lives about 60 years, has maybe 5 or 6 offspring in a lifetime. Humans can kill adults faster than they can reproduce. And if you're killing the reproductive age adults, the most valuable targets, population collapse is inevitable. So which was it? Climate or humans? Probably both. The climate was changing. The environment was shifting. Populations were already stressed. And then humans arrived, not as the only cause, but as the final pressure that tipped the balance. Here's the thing about humans. We're absurdly adaptable. The megafauna disappeared? Fine. We'll hunt smaller game. Deer, elk, bison, caribou. We'll fish, we'll gather plants, we'll figure it out. And figure it out they did. As the Ice Age ended and the glaciers retreated, the landscape diversified. Mountains, forests, plains, coasts, rivers, deserts. And in each environment, people adapted in brilliant, sophisticated ways. In the Arctic, where it stayed cold, people developed technologies for hunting on sea ice. Harpoons for seals and whales. Snow goggles to prevent snow blindness. Igloos built from ice blocks. They didn't just survive the Arctic, they thrived there. On the Pacific coast, where salmon returned to rivers in massive runs every year, people built permanent villages, massive cedar plank houses, totem poles telling family histories, complex social hierarchies, art that still takes our breath away. On the plains, life revolved around the bison. Before horses existed here, those would come with Europeans. Thousands of years later, people hunted bison on foot. Buffalo jumps, where entire herds were driven over cliffs. Pounds, where they were funneled into corrals. Brilliant communal hunting techniques. In the eastern forests, where the climate was milder, people started farming. Around 2,000 years ago, they figured out that you could plant corn, beans, and squash together, the three sisters, and they'd help each other grow. Permanent farming villages with longhouses holding 20 families, sophisticated agriculture. And all of these cultures? They were connected. Trade networks stretched across the entire continent, shell beads from the Pacific showing up in Manitoba, copper from the Great Lakes traded to the Atlantic, obsidian from the Rockies found on the plains. They developed complex governance systems. The Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy, created a democratic constitution with checks and balances centuries before Europeans did the same. Some historians think it influenced the American founding fathers. They created art, music, oral traditions that encoded thousands of years of knowledge. Stories that taught survival skills, history, values, navigation, everything needed to thrive. By the year 1000 CE, right when the next chapter of our story begins, there were an estimated 500,000 indigenous people living in what's now Canada. Maybe more. Dozens of distinct nations speaking different languages, living in every environment from Arctic ice to temperate rainforest. This was Canada before Canada. Not empty, not waiting to be discovered, but full of peoples, cultures, civilizations that had been here for 15,000 years. And then, one morning, on a beach in Newfoundland, someone saw something strange on the horizon. A ship, with people who had no idea where they were or what they were about to start. Strangers from across the ocean, metal weapons, wooden ships. The first encounter between two worlds that had no idea the other existed. Around the year 1000 CE, Vikings landed in Newfoundland. They tried to stay. It didn't go well. 500 years later, more ships appeared, and this time, they didn't leave.